it makes total sense because how could you create a team culture with our athletes if it doesn't start with the team culture and when it comes to
Yeah.
organization? So,
Well, I'm glad you mentioned team as out of that because I think that was the biggest differentiator of our pro athletes that we coached. In the early years, I coached individual pros. It was only when we took a team approach within this individual sport that everything went to the next level. And so with the pro squad, in order to be coached by me, they had to be a member of the team. They were a part of the Purple Patch Pro Squad. And in there, we put systems in place, non-negotiable behaviors, very, very similar stuff. You know, you must fuel after workouts, you must integrate and buy into strength training, you must go easy in the easy sessions, all of these things. We had a mentorship program. We got together consistently out of their regular training environment to build trust, understanding, support, collaboration. It started to feel like a team. And I knew that we were getting success with that when they started to identify themselves as Purple Patch Pros rather than Tim Reed Pro Athlete. So we really had this sense of belonging and team. And so I would have been foolish again to not try and replicate that as a coach. And I said, we need to build a team of coaches. So I don't want just in name only. I want a team of people. And so we set up a very similar approach as we started to add coaches. We did two things. Number one, we put in what are the non-negotiable behaviors that we want every coach to adhere to. What's our consistent framework of how we go and deliver coaching? So that's our model of coaching that we talk about. Interestingly, to keep it really consistent around an athlete experience, whether you're being coached by Max or Matt or Nancy or Brad, it feels like a purple patch experience. And it really helps with, if you're stepping away as you did earlier this year and you went and got married, a coach can come in and support you and have a clear understanding of where the athlete is on the journey. So we put all the systems in place. And I think that's a big reason around our one-to-one coaching. And I know we'll get into the details of one-to-one coaching, but I think that's a reason for a couple of things. Number one, why it's so challenging for someone to join Purple Patch. We don't hire very often because we don't lose coaches very often. And you're actually the freshest face on the Purple Patch coaching team, but it takes a while to hire, and coaches tend to stick around, and that's actually a huge component for that retention. That's very similar to what happened with our pro athletes. People just didn't want to leave because the coaches, and I think, and maybe you can speak to this more, it doesn't feel like an individual isolated journey. You've got a support network. You're held to account. The standards are high. And certainly for an incoming coach, that's not for everyone because you don't just get to go off and hide in the corner and coach your 10, 15, 20 athletes. You are held to account to deliver excellent service, and also you're supported. And so you probably know as much about Nancy's athletes and Brad's athletes as my athletes, as in some ways as your own athletes. It really is this purple patch athlete mindset across everyone. But sounds like you feel that as a member of the coaching team.
yeah, I do. I think that, I mean, that's what makes it fantastic is being part of that team and working really hard is a given in anything you're going to do and do well. The question is, are you going to be working really hard with people around you in that, that are after the same pursuit? And that's what makes it enjoyable and sustainable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
so
I would I would add as well, by the way, I mentioned Jerry Rodriguez and Paul Buick and these experts in fields. It's also really valuable from a coaching team standpoint. What that looks like in our coaching team is we all have different strengths and all of us have weaknesses as well. And so in our coaching team, we would be silly through that same lens not to leverage that. So Nancy is a fantastic resource in female physiology. She actually up levels the rest of us. She up levels you, myself, and everyone. You are a brain mechanic, as I like to say. You have the expertise around sports psychology. It's fantastic. John is obviously a real expert in open water swimming and technique. So we bring these different assets that then can be surrounded. And when someone joins as an athlete, you need video analysis from John. You have video analysis from John. You want to deep dive and get support around an athlete that you're coaching around female physiology and perimenopause. bring Nancy into the fold. So it creates, I think, more of a 360-degree team approach to the individual athlete as well, which I think is really beneficial for ultimately what we're here for, athlete success.
Yeah, it's funny as you were saying that I was thinking about the next part of this episode we're going to get through, which is coaching and being coachable. And it's probably a whole other topic for another day, but how you can only be a good coach if you are very coachable. And this team dynamic forces us as coaches to be very coachable and to lean into team, to work together, to be open to feedback, to communicate when we need help. And so, yeah, that's a key component of us being successful as coaches within an organization. Um,
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I came in and got excited when you said that because I think what does it take to be a great teammate? What is if you think about being a great teammate? Always identify three things, which you want to bring a certain level of smarts to it. So you want to be smart, you want to be hungry. That's right, like because there is a will to win here. We want results, we
mhm.
want outcomes, and you want to be humble. Those are the 3 things, and so a big part of humility is looking outside of yourself for answers, support, accountability, all of those components. So smart we don't hire dummies. We want people that are ambitious, that are there, that wanna meet the standards, don't want the standards lowered to them, and you wanna be humble enough to actually surround yourself with people that have got great core expertise in areas that maybe we're weaker in, and that's how everybody benefits, including the athletes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
fantastic.
Mm.
All right, before we ramble on too much, let's keep going.
Mhm.
So, when it comes to one-to-one coaching, and as you talk about a lot, being in a performance partnership, a key part of that partnership is the athlete. So, just kick things off with this next section. What does it mean to be coachable from an athlete's perspective?
Well, I mean, we could do, and I have to go back through my memory bank. I think we might have done a whole podcast on coachability, but we certainly could if we haven't done it. Because coachability, I think, is one of the traits of high performers generally. You know, in my experience with coaching too many elite athletes to remember the ones that are most successful, the champions, are the ones that are highly coachable. That is the one that is really consistent. And interestingly, you know, I've worked with a lot of C-suite executives, and many of them pretty well known. And the common trait amount around the ones that are most successful is their thirst for learning and their coachability. It is absolutely a critical component to success, being coachable. But what does that actually mean? And I think the most important thing is what it doesn't mean. It does not mean that you're relinquishing control or you're removing ownership. And so if you're
Mhm.
coachable, you still own your results. You are still ultimately steering the ship. What a coach is a performance partner, as you talked about that. So it remains your journey, ultimately your responsibility. But if you are the athlete with your aspirations and goals, if we just narrow the focus to being an athlete, you are doing the doing every single day. So you are the person in the weeds. You're the ones where the goal, the purpose, the passion is very personal. It really means it shouldn't mean more to anyone else than you. You're the one that has everything. And so on a day to day basis, it's really, really difficult to retain perspective while also putting in the required hard work. You can't always I read something, I think it was from Steve Kerr, which is, he was obviously a great basketball player and a fantastic coach. He said, "When you're a player, no you can't see yourself play, but a coach is the person that can see yourself play to give you feedback." That's the same as an endurance athlete. You can't see yourself doing it. The coach is there as a sounding board, but also a person of great wisdom with hopefully a broad experience of lots of different athletes where they can put your performance into context and give you great feedback, guidance, advice, etc. along their journey. And so if you can't see yourself but the coach is there for that, that is a critical component. The coach is also a really good person to set the strategy and help you filter the distractions and get you to focus on the things that are going to help you. I remember Tim Reed became a great world champion as an athlete, had great success. A big part of my role as his coach was to filter out the things that were causing distractions and get him to apply his lofty talent and commitment to the things that would drive the performance needle. And that was the catalyst. So it was as much about what I removed as it was any magic in workouts, to be honest. It was really, really important. And so with that, I think that if you're an athlete listening, it is if it's your journey and the coach is there as a sounding board, a point of perspective, helping you filter, at the heart of your relationship is what you bring: communication, not just waiting for feedback, not just being told what to do, but providing feedback, asking questions, showing up to meetings in a more tangible with an agenda, with things that you want to talk about. And that's how the great partnerships form, where two people are committed, both are bringing it, and there is feedback from the coach, but there's also feedback back to the coach. That's where the magic occurs, and that's how we really build apart that. And so I think it's a critical component. And then the final thing I'd say, I know I'm on a monologue, is people know the growth mindset, but the ever and never ending thirst for learning is so important. The most challenging athletes that we have coached are the ones that are, yes, but I know what I want to do. So they like the idea of getting a coach, but they don't want to evolve anything that they do as an athlete. And that's where the challenges really emerge from, I would say.
Yeah, you summed it up really, really well. Starting with commitment, and then breaking it down. That commitment really comes down to communication and questions. Questions, what stood out to me a lot, and what I think about the best athletes I've coached, they're always coming with questions. Just this morning, I had a call with an athlete, and it's, what should I focus on this week? Understanding that he's going to be on his own. It's up to him to bring it every day, um,
Hmm.
and taking ownership of that part of the journey.
And that was
That was
that
really
was one of
good.
the questions he asked. Yeah, what should I focus on?
Yeah,
Right, yeah, that's it.
exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
Um, all right. So that's being coachable. That's one component of the performance partnership. It's the athlete. Now, this next part is what the coach needs to bring, and how the relationship should be set up so that the coachable athlete can be super successful. Um, so we're going to stick with the format we did before, which is I'm going to ask you a question. This time
Mm.
you have more time to answer, so I won't keep a time clock. And to kick things off with this, I think it's a really good place to start with the Purple Patch methodology, because we talked about team and standards and all of that. And okay, we're going out into the world as coaches, coaching athletes based on what are we coaching, um, not just our own thoughts and goodwill. So, Purple Patch methodology.
Yeah, so if we're looking inside, and I guess just to frame it for listeners as well, the as I answer these questions, it's not how everyone should do it. It's how we try and solve the challenge of really
Hmm.
making sure the athletes can be successful. I'm sure there are other ways out there, and I know there are many other coaches being successful. So I just want to ground ourselves in that. When I just returned from Mexico City, and we were doing a leadership component, and we talked about being a great coach or a great leader in a corporate setting. And I said the first thing I talked about was having your methodology, your distinct methodology that you buy into. That's really, really important. I think that's the heartbeat of coaching. What do you actually believe in, and what are the principles that are going to guide you? That's a critical component. A purple patch, those that methodology emerged out of, as we talked about before, my own struggles. I wanted my athletes to be really, really healthy with a long-term lens, focused on self-improvement, and built a methodology to try and address those needs. And that methodology is the heartbeat of it. And so the reason that is important is that over the course of time, that methodology has always evolved a little bit because we're always looking to improve. We're always looking to reflect and say, what can we improve next year? But at the base of it, those principles fit into the umbrella of what we talk about. And it is anchored in science and peer-reviewed research, as well as, and I think this is really important, lessons from the journey where we just know it works. And it continues to evolve. It stood the test of time. It's 20 years now in duration. what it looks like now, you could argue is almost exactly the same as what it looked like 20 years ago. Through the other side of my mouth, it has evolved and built every single year where it's radically different and fit for purpose for this time. And I think that's a huge part of coaching. So without a methodology, without a set of beliefs, without a driving compass of how you want to take athletes of all levels, of all goals, of all abilities, etc., to their own personal up level, I think it's very, very difficult to be ultimately a great coach and especially a great coaching organization.